Welcome to Realty Web Series, a Realty and More and ICCPL initiative. During the past 1.5 months, we have been extensively covering various aspects of real estate market and its changing dynamics post-COVID. Today, we'll talk about luxury housing and how is it shaping up post the pandemic. To discuss, we have with us Nayan Raheja, Director Raheja Group, Ananta Raghuvanshi, Senior ED Sales and Marketing Experion, Amit Goel, CEO India, Sadbis International Realty, Karan Kumar, CMO DLF, Vikas Vadwan, Group CFO Housing.com, PropTiger.com and Makan.com. And we'll be soon joined by Avnish Sood, Director Eros Group, Yukti Nagpal, Director Gulshan, and Mona Jalota, Founder Krypton Global Investments. We are also joined by Aditya Rana from Aastak, who is our media representative. I welcome you all to the show. First, I'll come to Nayan. Nayan, as the lockdown relaxes across cities, are you witnessing issues of labor at your projects for construction or housekeeping?
So, I hope you can hear me, right? Yeah. So, initially, I think the first, 2 months while work had been stopped, most of our labor, which, we hire directly on our payroll, we had been taking care of them in terms of, providing all the food. In any case, we changed our systems about 7-8 years back, wherein a lot of labor came in from Dubai because of our, JV partners, construction companies. And these people, we provided very good quality housing accommodation, in situ at the site. So I think that has probably remained one reason why, most of these people stuck around with us on most of our projects. Having said that, when the lockdown did open, a lot of migration started happening. There was a 30 to 40% drop in the labor, even in the direct one, and slightly more drop in the subcontractor labor, which is indirectly sort of on rolls. But I think now the situation has largely improved. We are back to the initial number, that we had left off with, and these numbers are increasing now. So I think it is a problem. I can't say that it's not yet, or it's not completely solved yet. But I mean, we are working on it. 80 to 90% we've solved this issue.
Okay, Ananta, coming to you, the share of luxury housing is about 5% in top 7 cities. How do you see the share changing in the near future, especially keeping in mind the pandemic that we are going through right now?
Palash, the pandemic that we are going through right now looks like it's here to stay. So there is no, luxury post-COVID situation that I see. We just have to get used to living with COVID. If it's not COVID, it will be something else, some vivid, some insipid. See, something or the other keeps getting thrown at the real estate industry. So changes are only constant. So that is a given. Now, talking about 5% share across these 6-7 cities, see, luxury, you cannot disassociate luxury from price and size. Unfortunately, in our country, you can't disassociate it with price and size. In a city like New York, luxury is quite something else. But in our cities, when price and size determine what luxury is, then I guess the larger focus will still remain in these cities. The jobs are there, the businesses are there, the HNIs are there. More importantly, when you're talking about investment interest from diaspora increasing, or you're talking about vocal for local, all those people also who have the propensity to buy are also there. So we Homo sapiens have a lot of aspiration, and we also have a lot of motivation. But I think one of the things that has certainly happened is rapid adaptation. There are distilleries which are making sanitizers, but at the same time, the plant hasn't got relocated somewhere else, or nothing has got added on. It's only about adaptation. So the land parcels with the top developers are where they are. Now, who is going to get into the affordable segment, and who is going to cater to the mid segment, and who is still confident that if we have to keep getting locked into our houses, we might as well have a more comfortable house, whether it is in terms of space or it is in terms of, what are we looking for? Are we looking for branded? Are we looking for themed? Are we wanting something exotic? Are we wanting smart homes? Are we wanting futuristic homes? Are we wanting secure spaces? So luxury has so many different components. You can only play around within those components, but I doubt it if the cities or whether the population which is going for luxury, that is going to change in any which way. So demographics, I don't think is changing any which way.
Fine. Amit, the lockdown has created a unique experience for all, and work from home is emerging to be a new normal. So do you see a change in the design or the needs of the buyers in the luxury segment going forward?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So Palash, yes, we are seeing that trend where people want more, open space, space for home office. People are also talking about, having a, small gym area or a yoga, space within their house, space to keep, some sort of, table tennis or recreational activities. Because I think going forward, people are going to be spending more and more time at home, and they need more amenities. They need more, sort of completeness within their house. You don't know when the multiplexes will open, or gyms will open, or spa will open. So people want to have as many amenities, within their house and not step out for the same. I think post-COVID, things are going to be a bit different. The way people live, the way people, kind of do their workout, activities, home, entertainment. So all those things will see a huge change.
Karan, maintenance charges tend to be pretty high in luxury projects. So following the pandemic, there's a threat to job losses as well. Do you feel the maintenance charges need to be more realistic and there's room for optimization?
The maintenance charges, thank you, Palash, for having me on the panel, and thank you, other colleagues. Great to see all of you. Maintenance charges, obviously, in a large measure, are dependent on the kind of services and the kind of offerings that various developers provide in their resident communities. Is there a reason for them to get realigned? Yes, there is. It's always up for discussion. But they need to be honestly realigned based on the kind of services and amenities that are being provided. And I think the services and amenities that people would seek going forward would only be better and higher than what most of them are used to in the current kind of situation. I'll just take on also from where Ananta left. While there is this entire, in the conventional definition, only 5% of the total market is luxury. But I think the definition of luxury itself will have to evolve and change a little bit after this, because irrespective of how that 5% is defined, now people will expect more luxury across all price segments that they will buy product in. So whether the ticket value is a sub 3 crore ticket value or a sub 5 crore or a sub 20 crore ticket value, the expectations on luxury is only going to increase. What will be those services? What will be those amenities? How many of those services and amenities can be made available on campus on a permanent basis, even if the external world is shut down from your community and there is no traffic that's allowed inside? Everybody's going to expect more. So there is definitely an aspect of how the box itself needs to get redesigned. There's definitely an aspect of how, what Amit was saying, how you need to make more space to do other recreational activities within your own home. At the same time, there is going to be a huge amount of expectation on what your community, your condominium, your immediate neighborhood can provide to you. So the expectations from luxury are going to increase across all price points and price segments. And therefore, the impact on CAM and what kind of CAM comes into play basis the kind of luxury essentials or services that are being provided will always be under continuous review. Will it go down? Will it go up? That's not an easy answer to give, because as I said, it will have to be dependent completely on the kind of services and amenities that is being provided.
Vikas, how easy or difficult it is to get funding for the luxury segment, and more specifically post-COVID?
Thanks, Palash, for having me on the panel, and hello everyone. Hope all of you are keeping safe. So Palash, funding to any segment or any business is dependent on how that business or how that sector is playing in the past and what's the outlook in the future. So if we go back and look at luxury segment for the last, let's say, 3-4 years, it's going through tough time. While the entire sector is going through tough time, but I think luxury is having a larger share of the difficulties over the past 3-4 years. The launches in the primary segment were at an all-time low in the last 3-4 years, but still we saw the sales were less than half of what was launched during the same period, which resulted into almost 50% of the inventory remained unsold in the same period. So that's a challenge. This definitely impacts the ability of any lender, whether he's looking at an equity participation or a debt participation in terms of lending to this sector. And now with COVID, while government has taken a lot of initiative, even pre-COVID and now in this COVID stimulus in terms of boosting liquidity in the market, and real estate being one of the largest stakeholder in terms of absorbing that liquidity from debt market and from equity market, we expect a lot of equity to flow in. But I think some of the basic fundamentals needs to be corrected in the sector, which is the faster delivery of the projects, single window clearance to reduce the cost, and so on and so forth. So unless those fundamentals gets corrected, the investor confidence for further lending into the sector will remain subdued, I would say.
Thanks, Vikas. We are also joined by Yukti. Yukti, we are talking about luxury. Now, luxury has a, how do we define luxury in terms of pricing? You are coming up with a luxury project in Noida. Now, what is luxury in Noida may not be a luxury for in Gurugram, the price bracket in terms of price bracket. And again, which is not a luxury for say Mumbai or a Greater Noida West market. There's a huge difference between these markets. So how do you define luxury in terms of price bracket?
First of all, hello everyone. I'm honored to be sharing this panel with such experienced professionals here. Talking about luxury, I think luxury is highly subjective to the person who is buying it. It is what's luxury for me may not be luxury for you. Some people prefer luxury to be, you know, gold and embellishment. Some people prefer luxury to be a good location, while for others, health well is the biggest luxury of today and for the rest of the life. So I think luxury to be defined is a very, very subjective term in general. Now, talking about the price bracket, I'd say more as and when the economy or the market keeps developing a little bit more, that's when the prices keep increasing. Such is the case with Gurgaon, you know, more luxury market has been established and there is definitely a huge demand for it, whereas the supply, not so much. So that's when you get a good hold on commanding the price that you want. Whereas if we discuss the same at Noida Expressway, this is a destination which has for years tried to be a luxury destination. Many developers have come and sold it completely at really high prices. But for whatever reason, it was never able to be established. The projects never got delivered. I'm talking about the JPs and the Unitex of the world. It was never delivered, and thus definitely the sentiments were hurt of the person who is purchasing luxury. Now it is still in that corrective phase where you can, you know, think of a price hike, and with more and more developers like us coming and exploring that market, we can definitely look at a better pricing even at Noida Expressway. Now, subjectivity in terms of location is always going to be there. A place which is more central will always yield better pricing, whereas a place slightly outskirts will definitely give you a little less pricing there. So I would say it is very subjective to what location we are sitting in, how close it is to the center, and well, how the receivers value luxury in that particular market.
Amit, coming back to you, during the lockdown period, what has been the impact on luxury housing? Are buyers deferring their purchase decisions, or do you see the emergence of a new socio-economic group rising to acquire these assets?
Sure, great question, Palash. Happy to answer. So before I, say anything on luxury, I agree with Yukti. And just to add, luxury is something which is exclusive, which is aspirational, and a very, very limited supply. So your question about, Noida, Greater Noida and Delhi, of course, it may be, used by a lot of developers, the word luxury and ultra luxury, but I think and I wish it could be used more selectively and its true sense. Yeah, to answer your question, of course, demand for luxury homes from the buyers has got impacted, and more buyers are looking for some sweet deals where they can get more value. Of course, there are very far and few buyers currently, and most of them are also sitting on the fence to kind of be in that frame of mind where they want to part away with their liquidity. You see, in times of crisis, people with money feel cash is king, right? Which is true. But today there are so many opportunities where they can buy those aspirational assets which were not available in normal times. So today there is availability. There is little bit of discount available on some of the products. Developers are offering some payment plans. Some good inventory is available. And for buyers, someone who spent last 10 to 12 weeks at home under lockdown, they want to buy a place for themselves, their primary home, with more and more amenities, as I said before. And this is the best time for them to really pick up something of their choice which meets all their requirements and also get at a good valuation.
Nayan, yeah, please,
okay.
Amit, please.
Okay, you see, earlier people were spending a lot of money on vacation, international travel, on watches and jewelry, and birthday parties, anniversary parties. I think there is going to be some curtailment of expenditures on those items, but buying the primary home, which gives them more and more comfort, is going to be the way forward.
Nayan, how much appetite does our market have for the luxury segment? Do you think that supply, the entire supply is good enough to be absorbed?
If you actually ask my opinion on things, and I can back it up with our own sales figures, I feel more bullish about the luxury sector in India in the coming times as compared to the mid segment. In fact, I'm seeing far less numbers moving in the mid segment because of reasons of job insecurity and so on. But in luxury housing, the last month, I think we've done one of the highest sales in the last year. And we've got 2 luxury projects which I can count as luxury. And I don't want to be so subjective in luxury. I would say luxury in any micro market should count amongst the top 5 most expensive per square foot offerings is a simpler way to define it, right? So in Delhi, we are doing one sort of luxury project which would be amongst that, and even in Gurgaon, we are doing something like that. We saw great numbers coming in. But another thing which where I see a new segment opening up. For example, I stay at a farmhouse. I've been talking to my wife, about renovating a couple of more things. Maybe add a home theater, at the farm. We have a swimming pool, sauna, steam, like a clubhouse. We play badminton in the evenings, right? So access to these kind of facilities where we are isolated yet connected. I think there is going to be a new emergence because, people even who purchased very high-end, luxury homes today want access to open space. We know we are stuck in it for the next 1 or 2 years. I think, and I was talking about this before, that I think luxury is very elemental. People who are stuck in apartments probably would be feeling right now, if we were in a farm where we could sit out in the sun, where we could take a walk in the evening, play with our children in the park. What greater luxury than that? We know we can't go to the cinema, have a home cinema like a gold class at home. I would count that as a new emerging sector, where there is a trend to shift into larger homes or farmhouses or large spaces. And I think appetite for this always remains. Nothing is more important than your well-being. For anybody who has money, this is not investment. This is his life. This is his family. This is his time. And he's realizing the importance of that now more than ever. And I think that emergence is happening. We can see it in the numbers right now.
Okay. Yukti.
I like to add that point, Nayan. I think I totally agree with what you're saying. This demand of having that perfect home is now realized even more than ever so, because I don't think either of us has ever spent this much time locked in our apartments ever before in our lives. We've always been following that rat race, and now we realize that okay, this is where we belong, this is what defines us, this is who we are. So the requirement of those things, those aspirations are now much on the rise. I don't know about the sales numbers, that's not somewhere I would like to comment, but I am getting a lot of general inquiries also from not so serious buyers who just want to understand that how, what additional features are you going to add in your properties, how do you cater to the current COVID crisis with the development that you're making. And I'm seeing that increasing shift towards the wellness of one being. Everybody is today thinking about their health, thinking about how well their house is meeting all their needs, how well it is in pushing them to live a healthier lifestyle, how much green spaces are there, how many sunsets can you watch in a year, and stuff like that is now more valuable than ever. And I think in tomorrow's time, luxury is just going to be wellness homes, and I really hope I'm right here, but I'm already seeing it happening that wellness homes are going to be a hit. The more you focus your entire development around a healthier lifestyle, the more that demand, that need, that aspiration is going to be met. So that's just, I wanted to add that.
We are also joined by Mona Jalota, founder Krypton Global Investments. Mona, one question to you. Rental yield in residential properties in India is very low. It is to the tune of say about 2 to 2.5%, and even lower in luxury projects. So how do you see global investors looking at luxury housing in India as an investment option?
Hi everybody, sorry for the late joining in, I had some technical issues. So before I answer you, Palash, I want to go back to what Yukti said and what Nayan said. Around a year and a half back, I noticed a strange trend happening in South Bombay. I've always, throughout my career, worked a lot in the South Bombay sector. And I saw that larger families who were having spaces in buildings in South Bombay are not known, traditional South Bombay are not known for the amenities and parks and gardens, etc., etc. They are just homes. I noticed a trend of these people selling off these homes and moving into products or projects which had all amenities within the complex itself. Some of them also sold off these very, very high value properties and preferred to live on rent. And a large number of elite families, celebrities now prefer living on rent. So I do see that going forward. I want to add, liquidity crisis hits when you're buying your own home, or when you're thinking of upgrading yourself to where you're living currently into where you would like or aspire to live in. That's one part of it, but the cash flow affects the income as well. However, the rental part of it, I think, is going to become more and more popular with a generation that feels that may as well have money in bank, cash is king. And when you get all the amenities without the headache and responsibility of maintaining a property and getting your cash stuck in it, people would prefer that. So that's one thing. Globally, I've seen that. So my business, what I started focusing on now is basically getting Indians to invest overseas and diversify the portfolio. But ever since COVID has hit, all my inquiries are coming in from my NRI clients who are in the UK, who are in the US, and who want to now move back home. It's an excellent time for them. Deals are available, and they definitely are looking at wellness projects. They're looking at projects having all sorts of amenities within them. So I think there is going to be some reverse flow of money coming in a larger manner than what it was a couple of months ago, or maybe for the entire last 2 years. There was a complete stop in that. So I think that is another thing that's going to pick up a lot. And I forgot what your question was. I hope I've answered it.
I am saying the rental yields are very low, especially in luxury segment. So does it make sense for an NRI to invest in luxury property in India?
For their self-use, yes. It cannot be compared to the kind of returns they get when they put it in the UK or when they put it in US. There are so many different alternative sectors of real estate where you can put your money and get more returns. I don't think it makes sense for them to, put the luxury money in the luxury property if they are intending to lease it out and get some income from it. But they are definitely looking at it, as their own self-purchase. So it doesn't make sense for them to buy it if they want to lease it out.
Ananta, as Mona is saying that there is a renewed interest from the global Indians to come back and invest in Indian luxury properties. So have you seen any increase from your NRI clients in your luxury properties?
Yes, Palash. Palash, there are two parts to your question. So the first one, definitely, there's no doubt. When people, qualified people, brilliant people with the money are losing their jobs overseas, whether it is in Dubai or it is in other places. And also there's uncertainty about the H-1B visa and stuff like that. And every day these type of news are coming to them. It doesn't mean that overnight they're going to pack up and land up here, but it certainly does translate into everybody wanting to have a safety net and a nest egg back home in their mother country, so that if something drastic was to happen to them, their children, their families are used to living in a certain environment and a certain lifestyle, none of that gets compromised for them. And so that is definitely there. The other part that you were talking about, the returns. What are the returns that we are getting on our FDs these days? What are we getting on our savings bank? Just 2 days back, I got a mail from Citibank, 2.5%, 3% on FDs. So what capital protection are we talking about? I mean, residential is far better than that if you are picking up a good location and from a good builder developer. And obviously, when you talk of luxury market, then each of the builders has ensured that the trends, the features, and the dreams of the buyer are taken care of. Everybody has those lovely, unique features. Another thing that NRIs would be looking at is also, and also people in the luxury segment in these 6-7 cities that you mentioned, that 5%. Would also be looking at, once again, at the holiday home segment, whether it's hills or whether it is mountains or whether it's forests, whatever fascinates them. See, one thing which has happened, which Yukti highlighted very clearly and Nayan highlighted it, and we've seen him practice it also, is that everybody's guitars are out, the paint brushes are out, their creativity has gone to a different level. See, isolation has led to a lot of inspiration at a soul level for individuals. And home is so close to all of those things. So therefore, I feel that, if you know that, okay, fine, you're not going to be putting up in hotels and resorts and you may be risking your families, then you would like to, not park all your eggs in one basket, and also to break up your investments in a very smart way that you can use them, one doesn't mind getting into their car and driving 3 hours, 4 hours, reaching the hills, reaching the beach, whatever you wish to do in your own place. So personally, I feel luxury in the times to come will certainly thrive. We will be in a situation where it is in short supply, because a lot of builders, developers are actually moving to the mid segment and also to the affordable segment. So suddenly, when the supply and demand ratio is, changes, then obviously market dynamics also get hit by it. And I think all of us should be approaching this adversity with a lot of fortitude and grace and take it head on, but not lose hope, and be ready to adapt as and when required. We have to be very flexible with the buyer. That's the long and short of it, whether it comes to payment plans, whether it comes to the features that they're looking for, whether it comes to, pricing. So a lot of help has to be done and a lot of hand-holding has to be done, but interest certainly is there in the luxury segment.
Karan, during the lockdown times, what innovative marketing measures have you adopted now that prints, outdoors, and many of such traditional marketing things are on hold? So for your luxury projects, what is your marketing strategy?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, Palash. I'll just come to that, but I'll just quickly make a couple of points that I've heard other panelists make. One is to your specific point on rental yields. While a lot of India still is in the 2.5% kind of bracket, we have luxury projects in Gurgaon which have touched 4.5. So these might be exceptions, but these exceptions do exist. And if you look at that in context of the comment that was being made on, let's say, even the rates that you're getting on fixed deposits these days, I think it's a different way of looking at real estate as an asset class for investments altogether. The second point I want to make is that because of COVID, because of people staying at home, of course, people have realized and become more conscious of the environment in the living. What's also happened is that people have been spending more time in trying to discuss, understand, close deals. I know for a fact that over the last 60 days, we've had some more than 600 video calls with various prospects, right? I know for a fact that my average time per video call is now at about 1.5 hours, which earlier I used to struggle at about 35 to 40 minutes. So people are definitely getting more and more interested, more and more keen to explore these subjects, and they do these calls along with rest of their family members sitting with them. The third is that over the last 60 days, in one segment of super luxury that we operate, which is the near conflicts, we've in that super luxury segment, we've closed business close to 100 crores. Another super luxury segment that we have in New Gurgaon, and here I'm using the words luxury and super luxury basis how Nayan defined it. Top 5 projects, let's say, in a micro market. We've clocked business worth another 100 crores there. So you're looking at numbers obviously happening. You're looking at people obviously being very interested in purchasing products which offer them a certain amount of wellness, to use Yukti's point, right? And spending more time per call that you're doing. And finally, I think to the comment on marketing. See, I think marketing, first of all, marketing should be looked at something which is devoid of only communications. Communication and advertising is one part of marketing, but communication and advertising should not and do not define all of marketing. The essence of marketing is to ensure how strong and how regular a channel of communication and engagement you can have with your stakeholders, current customers, current residents, prospects, people in the funnel, other stakeholders, investor community at large, right? So while a lot of newspaper advertising would come down, and that is of course a legitimate platform of marketing, but not the only one, as I said, our interaction with our various stakeholders across various platforms, not limited only to digital and social, whether it's through letters, whether it's through messages, whether it is through campaigns, whether it's whatever, has been extremely high, because at every point of time in the last 3 months, we have tried to keep the community, extended and immediate community, informed about what are we doing. How can we reassure that their investments are safe? How can we reassure that their investments are still the right decisions that have been made? How can we ensure that people who've been fence-sitters have the right reasons to now invest in properties like this? There was a quick comment that I wanted to make on the NRI market. Of course, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of inquiries that we've got from the NRI community. We've closed. So I've told you about roughly 200 odd crores of deals that we've closed in the last whatever period. A lot of these deals have happened over video calls across multiple countries. Parents here, son somewhere else. They want to buy either something for their own self, or they want to buy something where the parents can be protected and taken care of. A lot of people who are buying this from the NRI market as well are people who are first-time condominium buyers. So to Nayan's point, there are people who've traditionally been living in individual low-rise housing, whether it's on an independent floor, whether it's a farmhouse, but they're first-timers to condominium living, and they've understood the advantages of condominium living. How have they understood the advantages of condominium living? Because our own residents, our own people have been sending out, creating messages, videos, circulating it to their friends and families, saying this is what is available to me at the time of this crisis. And that, for me, creating ambassadors out of your own residents is the biggest form of marketing. For me, that kind of advocacy that I get organically, and the result of that into business closures is incredible marketing. So yes, there are, you will have various platforms which talk about, newspaper ads and TV ads and advertising. You will also have platforms to talk about a lot of digital campaigns. But I think if you can at this moment focus your marketing efforts on creating greater number of brand advocates or brand ambassadors, for the want of a better word, focusing on evangelism and advocacy, I think that marketing is a very healthy outreach program, which has resulted in significant amount of disclosures. I hope I've understood. I've answered that.
Yeah. Because investment in luxury housing in India is capital preservation or capital appreciation?
So Capital, that's a good question, Palash. I must say, capital appreciations. I think it'll gonna take some more time before we start seeing capital appreciation in real estate market. We've seen the prices are not going up for last some time, for at least last 3-4 years, and with this pandemic, I don't see the prices will suddenly start going up, at least for the next couple of years. So capital appreciation still will be a distant for the time being, but I think it is definitely, see, if you look at it from Indian psyche perspective, real estate and gold is always seen as a very, very safe investment, right? And stock markets being very, very choppy right now, and it's going to remain the same at least for the next couple of years because of this pandemic. I see money moving towards real estate in the next couple of years, because people always feel that real estate is a safe asset to invest in. So that's one. The other, as some of my co-panelists also highlighted, the NRI thing. I think that is another thing which will drive demand into the luxury segment, because and there are a couple of points which needs to be understood very, very clearly there. One is, yes, NRI contributes a lot towards luxury segment, but a large part of NRIs comes from the Gulf region, and Gulf region is the hard is very badly impacted because of this pandemic, and also because of the oil crisis, right? And there are many reports which are talking about massive repatriation of people from Gulf region back to India. Now, will they start buying? I don't know. If people are losing their job there, I don't think they'll start buying assets or property in India. So that'll be one area which needs to be very closely watched over the next couple of quarters. The second is the rupee dollar equation. Rupee is depreciating against dollar, and it will remain under pressure at least for next few quarters. So I think that is one positive thing from NRI segment, because they can now spend less dollars to buy the same property, and hence the affordability becomes easier. So these are few things which needs to be watched very closely, but I'm hopeful with some of the points which our co-panelists made, and looking at the safe investment, looking at rupee depreciating against dollar, we will see demand in luxury segment coming back sooner than later.
Amit, after the lockdown, how has been the sales? Karan was saying he has closed about 100 crores of sales. What about Sadhvi's?
So sales have been low for sure, Palash, but we've seen, more and more queries of people wanting to, explore, looking around and, upgrading their home from 3-bedroom to 4 and 5, from 4 and 5 to a farmhouse, as Nayan was mentioning. So there is more and more, queries coming in, but in terms of closure, I think real estate is something which cannot be sold online, and it needs, that brick and mortar and that touch feel. So people coming out of their home and visiting the property is something which is not, practically possible these days. I would say once the lockdown, is completely over and things are back to normal, that is when more and more closures will be seen, because end user demand is very, is going to drive the kind of, sales. It's not going to be investor driven demand as you asked the question. To answer that question as well, it's more of a capital preservation these days than the appreciation. In times of crisis, appreciation is not the first parameter for any investor. So to say in a nutshell, demand is going to rise for end use, but it may take some time to close.
Okay, we have lots of viewers' questions also coming up. But before that, I'll toss it over to Aditya Rana from Aajtak, who also has few questions. Aditya?
Yeah, I would like to ask Nayan Rahija the first question. A few years ago, regarding the marketing and sales strategies of luxury housing, we have seen developers promoting their projects like the highest or tallest building in North India. And Nayan, you also announced price of 100 crore rupees of a flat in a project. So what do you think, how these strategies will go ahead after Corona? These will be the same, you will be selling the exclusivity, or something different is going to come here?
So I can talk about a very interesting thing So since we've already done that, right, we've built a 62-story tower in Gurgaon. We're going to hand over soon. In Delhi, we are building the Delhi's tallest tower, which is also about similar height, 200 meters and about 42 floors. Now we are planning something which is more suited and very unique to Corona times. We are looking at a farmhouse colony, which is 100% gated, spread over 100 acres, right next to Gurgaon, very, very central location. And, with all imaginable facilities within your own farm. So, I mean, that's how we are thinking of sort of offering a custom-made sort of product, where there is 100% self-sustainability, solar electricity, water harvesting, poultry, organic farming, all the works, the fully sustainable, so you don't need to go outside. So that's one of the things. The other thing about, marketing for our existing projects, there are some innovative things that we are doing presently, and I think that's led to good numbers moving. So we are offering a COVID insurance scheme, wherein if anybody purchases an apartment from us during the lockdown period, it's mixed with a life insurance product, right, where he and his family are secured, and it can potentially, in case of any mishap happening, the family is protected. So there are out of the box things that we are sort of doing right now, and I think that there's going to be more of these coming in. I think for housing, you may come up with projects which have only one apartment per floor, or apartments with higher floor to floor height, so you have less interaction with other people, you have more privacy. I think those kind of products are going to come in very soon.
Yukti, you have a similar kind of a project that is coming up with low density. Can you tell what is the USP of Gulshan Dynasty?
Absolutely. Yes. So we feel like at this time, we feel like we've designed this product thinking about the COVID times. However, it is just a result of extensive market research. So we did launch this project, which has only 35 apartments per acre, making 76% of the area completely green. And that green is also very carefully planted, thinking of all the medicinal plants and whatever purifies the air the best, which can grow as many fruits and foods as possible. We are focusing this entire project into the wellness complex, where from the second you walk into your entire day, you are just encouraged to be healthier about your life. So talk about, having detox water throughout the complex available, having hydroponically grown produce everywhere throughout the cafe, anything you can order at your house, having separate entry exit points for service personnel to avoid contact as much as possible. So we have one main entrance in the front and one in the back, which has a different screening and every frisking process for any service personnel that comes into your complex. And then into your apartment also, there's a different gate, a different lift, a different code altogether. So with all of these features, we have created this kind of a complex where every day your sunbathing is scheduled and your yoga sessions are scheduled, and you walk out of the gym and you're served detox water, and you go into the cafe and you're served fresh farm to fork salads. And it's just throughout the day you're reminded that your health is very important. You have to take care of it. And that's pretty much what my entire positioning and the entire research led me to plan this project, and luckily it has come out at the perfect time that we could have hoped for.
I would like to ask one question from Vikas. Vikas, we have seen many demands coming out from the different associations, organizations of the real estate, like NAREDCO, CREDAI, regarding various conditions they require to sustain the business, to grow in the business. And now here we are talking about the luxury housing, and then is talking about the farmhouse concept. I was asking about the regarding the luxury apartments. So do you think these farmhouse concepts are going to survive here? And when at a time of Corona, we are asking for the different rebates, how luxury housing will find its place to sustain?
No, absolutely. So Aditya, our understanding is there is a segment which will always have aspirational demand and will always look for upgradation, right? So from demand perspective, that demand will always remain. Now, as far as concessions asked by the industry is concerned, those concessions are not related to some kind of a subsidy in terms of pricing or some kind of a subsidy in terms of the raw material and all. What the industry is asking for, how do we de-bottleneck the entire sector? Right now, the sector, because of the many reasons, starting from so this sector remained unregulated for the longest. RERA put in a lot of compliances. Then GST came in, demonetization had its own impact on the sector. So right now the sector, while it was going through the downturn, is feeling like it is congested, or it is kind of bottlenecked, completely choked from many angles. And now with COVID, you will have issues around migrant labor, you will have issues around the financial arrangements. So the industry is only asking for help or some kind of a stimulus to ease out some of these areas. It will not going to impact a luxury segment or affordable segment, but rather impact the entire sector equally, because it will help developers improve their balance sheet in these tough times, so that they can start delivering their projects which are stalled for the long time. So I think that's the need of the hour, and it doesn't it has no linkage to a particular segment. There will be demand for luxury houses. There will be demand for affordable. Yes, affordable in terms of volume will always have much larger impact on the overall sector, but the luxury demand will stay and possibly will going to grow because of the aspirations increasing.
I would like to counter you here with the current example, and would like to get the answer from Mr. Karan Kumar from DLF. As per information with me, DLF has 4,500 crores worth of inventory of camellias. So at what pace will this be monetized? And also, as per news, there are many cancellations, around 900 crore rupees of cancellations are there. So in this corona time, the situation is before pre-COVID, I'm talking about. So in COVID, situation is not good. It is going worse day by day. So how they will monetize this project?
So Karan, you want to go ahead?
Karan, this was for you.
I kind of lost my speaker. Can you just repeat that? Sorry, one more time.
Yeah. I can hear you. Can you hear me, Karan?
Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry. Yeah.
Karan, as per information with me, you can verify it if I'm true or not. Your project is a camellias, and there is an inventory of around 4,500 crore rupees in the same project. So how you are going to monetize the inventory at the current pace? And there are many cancellations are also there. As per news, around 900 crore rupees of cancellations are already there. So first, I want to know, is this true? And if it is true, how you will sustain this project? How will you sell the project?
Sorry, if I heard that right, my speaker's not been working very well, but if I can hear this right, you're asking specifically on the camellias and how you think we can sustain that project given the current context, right? So let me first start by saying that. Let me first start by saying that the about roughly 200 odd crores worth of transactions that we've done in the last 3 months have a large part of it coming in from the camellia segment as well. And fundamentally, my counter to that assumption of how will projects like these sustain in difficult times is very simple. My understanding is that, you know, when you look at the luxury segment and you look at people who are buying into a certain kind of a luxury lifestyle, luxury living at a certain ticket value, fundamentally, most of these people are slightly insular to the financial instability that you see around yourself. So let's not mix what will happen to the overall real estate market across various segments, specifically with luxury and in ultra luxury segments. Because my strong belief is that buyers of luxury and ultra luxury, and camellias definitely falls in the ultra luxury segment, these people are slightly more insular, slightly more insulated from the kind of financial turmoil or the kind of short-term financial impact that you see right now. So if anything, our transactions in the camellias has increased. If anything, the NRI reach out on the camellias has been more significant in the last 30 days than it has been earlier. If anything, NRIs have come back and told us that please don't give us bare shells. Can you please make fully fitted apartments for us? And we are more than happy to pick up fully fitted apartments because we really want to come back and we want to stay in a condominium which is probably better than what we stay in Hong Kong or in Singapore right now, to the point of the NRI market. But make it for us and give it to us in a manner that we can fit in and move in really, really soon. There are about 200 odd residents who already, not residents, 200 odd buyers who are already in active stages of advanced fit outs. These are people who are telling us how soon can you open up the construction sites for my architects and engineers to come in, because I really now, more than ever before, in a hurry to move into an environment like this, which is so much luxurious and which offers me this kind of protection. There is a beeline of people who want to restart work as soon as we allow their site engineers to move in, who want to move in during the Navratra period before the Diwali period. So the fundamental premise here is, and going back to what Vikas mentioned a little while before my speaker kind of lost track, at a SOPs level, there are a lot of fundamental corrections that the industry requires, and this time, like any other time, but this time more than any other time, is an opportunity for the industry to seek government's help in getting some of those regulations in place. That said, in the luxury segment specifically, I think the people who are buying into luxury, so aspirational demand is something that, again, I think Amit or Vikas mentioned, but the people who actually have the financial capability to invest in these kind of super luxury projects are definitely more insulated than the current pandemic that one has seen, which right now is about 2-3 months, perhaps will extend in impact for a couple of quarters. And finally, a whole lot of movement that is happening from the NRI market, not just the Gulf. So sure, Gulf people who are losing jobs will not necessarily come back home and pick up luxury homes. But there's a whole lot of people who have now been jolted, given the situation in Hong Kong, for example, where there's a lot of changes happening in the political structure there with China's intervention. There are a whole lot of people who've been nudged to say that if there was any time where one would want to consider buying something for self-use, which is supremely well appointed and luxurious, this is the time. And for that reason, we've had absolutely no lull whatsoever as part of our luxury sales. As I said earlier, in the last 2.5 months, we've closed almost roughly 200 crores of luxury product sales.
Karan, Aditya also mentioned about cancellations. Have cancellations increased post-lockdown period? That was Aditya's one more part.
Not at all. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are cancellations that happen in any project, and cancellations are a reality of every project. There have been cancellations to that extent in Camellias as well over a period of time, as the project has been around for the last 4.5 years. But if anything, during the last 6 to 8 weeks, there has been absolutely no incidence of cancellation, and in fact, a whole lot of new business that's coming. So to that point, specific to cancellations in Camellia, the answer is no.
Yeah, but Palash, just to add to what Aditya was asking, our sense as far as cancellation in the market is concerned, I think it's too early to start judging whether the cancellations will go up or not because of this pandemic. Our sense is, like everyone is anticipating that the NPAs will go up over the next few quarters, we will see higher cancellations over the next few quarters, which is but natural because people will lose job, people's earning capabilities will get impacted. So whatever plan they made while booking a property, maybe 6 months, 8 months previously, may not turn out to be true in the next few quarters. So that's very, very natural, but that is going to happen in mid segment, in luxury segment, both, and it'll be a temporary phenomena. It'll not going to be a very, very long-term impact on the sector per se. And it is something like, sorry, is there anyone? What is? Okay.
No, go ahead.
So the way we are saying NPAs will increase, but it doesn't mean that the financial sector will has any impact in terms of the long term. Long term, everyone is saying financial sector will remain the backbone of the of Indian economy. The same way, real estate sector, luxury will play a very, very important role as far as the real estate is concerned, and people are becoming more and more aspirational in India, especially in a nation like India, where people are moving upwards in terms of their income strata. We'll see the demand increasing more and more in the long term.
Mona, you are adding something?
Palash, I'm going to go and yes, I want to go and address Aditya because he's speaking to us as a participant or as a user. He wants to understand more about specifically camellias. Now, Aditya, just to reassure you, I have never met Karan before this call. I don't work with DLF actively at all. I'm just speaking to you as completely a person on the ground. As far as camellia goes, and as far as the reputation that we see in the industry for DLF as a company, and trust me, from Bombay, when I first went to Bombay and Delhi are very different markets. The only project Bombay Elite asked me for is camellias and is magnolias of DLF. And when I personally went to see the project to see what the hype is all about, I saw that the developer in question had not only invested in creating a beautiful home, but he had also contributed to creating the entire infrastructure to give the person in that home a beautiful life. Going back to your numbers and figures, etc., from a market perspective, most of the NRI clients, when they talk about investing back at home, and very rightly Karan said that there are two very distinct audiences. One is audiences that probably will be buying their first home in India because now they can, they are being kicked out of their jobs. They'll go into something which still we may call it luxury because they earn in a higher currency than us. But there are going to be some really elite people from established, mature countries that now feel they want to come back home, and then they are going to be the kind of target audience for a project like camellias or magnolias. As regarding your cancellation subject, I do not agree that cancellation can be something that should be a cause of concern for any developer that has, focused on setting up the right parameters for his project and the right basics for their project. It's a very much part of the game, and I have been broking and selling for the last 12 years, and we've seen some of the best projects getting cancellation. Had nothing to do on the developer, and that's no statement on the product itself, because it's completely a buyer's prerogative to either choose to buy or to cancel. But because you specifically spoke about camellias, I'll go back to that project to say that a project that has set its ground on something like how they say what sells is location, location, location. This is a project that has so many USPs, so many selling points. It's going to stand the test of time. All of us are going through tough times in COVID. I'm sure once we are back out of it, people are going to go back and look at everything that a project like Camellias has to offer. So these are all needless numbers. And of course, if you're in the market and if you are looking at a checklist, I'm sure Camellia, like few other projects as well, will have all the tick marks on that checklist. So that's not COVID related or market related at all.
Karan, you couldn't have asked anything more. You are getting an endorsement from a third party. That's a very good thing. Now I'll take some viewers' question. We'll extend the show because we have so many questions from viewers. I'll take one question. This is for Yukti from somebody called Divya Singh. She is asking, luxury in Noida, exclusivity or good product? What is your USP, as we don't see much of actual luxury in Noida? So you have the advantage as well of low availability.
Sorry, Palash, your question got cut in between. Can you repeat that?
There's a viewer called Divya who is asking that there is not enough supply of luxury in Noida. So will that be beneficial for you? And what are the USPs? USPs you have already mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So definitely, like I mentioned before, Noida Expressway has ever since been trying to be the luxury destination of this part of the world. However, many developers who've tried were unable to deliver. With that being said, I think in the last 3 to 4 years, many couple developers, to name a few, have come forward and started taking these bold decisions into establishing this market. And now I think we have good 4 or 5 projects that are offering good luxury, even in Noida. And that trend seems to be growing. Currently, like Karan also mentioned, luxury is a demand that it is always aspirational. It has nothing to do with the crisis. I mean, very, very little related to it. And in a time like COVID, many people have realized the importance of that perfect home, that perfect living that enhances your lifestyle. there's always a debate between that farmhouse and condominium living, whereas from where I'm watching, a lot of that condominium living is on the rise. That demand is definitely on the rise, because maintaining a condominium versus maintaining a full farmhouse, there are two worlds apart situations, and I personally feel the pain of that by living in a bungalow right now, and I would love to move into a condominium. And I kid you not, there are many people like me who've been raising such questions that do we have those projects available? So to answer that in the short line, yes, we have. Some are delivered, some are upcoming, and some like me have recently launched. And this market of luxury in Noida is definitely maturing.
Nayan, it is apartment versus farmhouses. The pros and cons.
No, these are two very different typologies, and also see, these are all also locational, right? You will never get a farmhouse in the middle of the city, but you can get very, very nice apartments, in the heart of the city. So I'm sitting in all boats, and I can't play. I have to play on all sides. Yeah, but I think, both have their own requirement. I personally you can say I've grown up on a farmhouse. I love the farmhouse. We make apartments, but I think there's great value there now in Corona times. And apartments, I strongly feel, the lesser density, larger apartments, the better it is. Sometimes you tend to say it's luxury because it's, it's just the project is luxurious, but at the end of the day, if you look at it, it's got 1 BHK, 2 BHK. Without naming the developer, there's a very prominent building in Bombay. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody, you can say amongst the top 2-3 projects yesterday.
I was just thinking about that, Nayan. You're right. I was just thinking about that.
Somebody was telling me about that complex yesterday. बोल रहे हैं दिन में वो 2 घंटे के लिए लिफ्ट खोलते हैं टावर के अंदर, because क्या लोग जो है वो people who are staying on the upper floors, they are going and drinking with people 50th floor or 2nd floor के साथ बैठा हुआ है. They said that we have shut down the elevators only now. They can only go for 2 hours to buy groceries, otherwise they're stuck in the middle of the apartment. So I'm saying that that I don't say is luxury. I would probably say even in apartments, 1 floor, 1 apartment, or maximum 2 apartments, something like that, more exclusive, low density, lesser people. Some people call themselves, luxury is a term everybody uses very loosely in our country. I've seen affordable housing being called luxury also. I've seen 2 BHK apartments also being called luxury. It's ridiculous. Like I said, you look at the top 5 only. You make it a little more strict, the entry point into this. Top 5 in terms of pricing and size, these 2 are the parameters.
Fine, and I'll take your questions.
Palash, if I can just add to what Nayan said, why not both apartment as well as farmhouse? So apartment for your weekdays living and farmhouse for the weekend living.
Can I also add that the kind of farmhouse that Nayan described earlier, which is a farmhouse which is self-contained and is a part of a larger community, is a different kind of a product than you're talking about the typical average farmhouse that you see today. Now that kind of product, which is a part of a larger community, is self-sustained, can take care of all wellness, entertainment, recreation requirements, is a different kind of a product. It's not comparable to the farmhouses that mostly exist today, and therefore the comparison of that with condominium living is not an apples to apples kind of a comparison. Because the kind of farmhouses that are available today are not necessarily adequately appointed as what Nayan is saying. So Nayan's conversation is about a different kind of a product, and more power to him, quite honestly, on that. Because our experiences so far have been of people living in regular farmhouses, very large farmhouses, but regular self-contained farmhouses, and they're saying that we are all alone. There's nobody to take care of. Very difficult to maintain the environment that we have. Very difficult for essential supplies to reach into my home, into my farmhouse, because
I think we lost him.
Yeah, we have lost him. I'll take a viewer question. This question is for Amit and Ananta both. There's somebody called Priya Singh who is a realty blogger, and she's writing from Gurgaon. She says, luxury in the times of job losses. How much impact of job losses are going to have on luxury, as even business houses have badly impacted? Ananta?
Yeah, sure. So let's now luxury. Of course, there There are these luxury products which are for 40 crores and 20 crores, and definitely that's a different segment altogether. But then there are also luxury products like the type that my organization has, where, you know, we have a product called Winchance in Gurgaon, Priya, and that's in a range of 2 crores going up to 12 crores. So within that condominium, which is, hardly 15 minutes from the airport, and it's right at Delhi, 0 kilometers from Delhi border, and it has everything that you can dream of, an environment where you don't feel locked in at all, because on the 8th floor, there's Asia's largest skywalk. Now, a product like that, what actually ends up happening is when there is job insecurity and income insecurity for that particular segment, which is the upper middle class, if you were thinking of, let's say, buying a villa, which is for, let's say, 8 crores, or a penthouse, which was for, let's say, about 5 crores, you may make a compromise with a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. But it will not happen that you will not buy. And Priya, I'm happy to share with you that in our luxury products, we are having site visits on weekends in double digits, which is very encouraging. And we are not losing any buyers. So, you know, while in the affordable category, normally what happens is, okay, we lost this to competition, or we lost that to price, or we lost that to discounting, or whatever it is. But in this segment, if somebody has liked your product, he is going to live in that condominium itself, because the minute you enter, that the aura of the place and the music of that place surrounds you. You get vibrations of a place, right? And these are very inviting places. So you may not immediately pick up that dream property, but you will like to be in that dream address. So that is one part. Second thing, Priya, is that do not restrict luxury, like Palash said right in the beginning of this show, to just Gurgaon or to Bangalore or to Bombay. In a city like Lucknow, we are doing the most luxurious product. And the location is absolutely category A. It's in Vibhuti Khand, right opposite the Marriott, abutting the wall of the Lucknow High Court. Now, within that itself, of course, there are apartments and apartments in all sizes with every possible luxury you can imagine. But there itself, we are building a commercial and a little retail development also. So those attract a different category. Now, whether it's doctors or lawyers or CAs, the work from home works for them. So you're technically working from home, but you don't have the disturbances of the house. The pressure cooker whistle is not going on. The washing machine noise is not going on. You are walking out and stepping into your office within the same 4 walls of that condominium. So, you have an office, you have a home, you have a home office. Life is being planned around the new normal, which we are assuming is here to stay. And these are being created, these spaces. Also in our Gurgaon project, we have those retail and, little centers where you can do your offices. Now there are clubs also. The clubs also are going to definitely have these little business center facilities. So I am more than confident that a luxury buyer or a guy with luxury aspirations is not going anywhere. He will come back to you. Loans are available cheapest ever, right? And it's not that if you don't have a job today, you've lost a job today, you've lost your job for life. It's a passing phase. It's a speed breaker. It's not that you have lost everything forever. No, we are going to bounce back. Life is going to bounce back. These are temporary salary cuts. At the end of it, you have to have hope and you have to have courage. And what happened in the past, once a vaccine is found, once a cure is found, we must talk again.
Sure.
See the way people will start traveling. See the way they will start. Yes, of course, social distancing and care and hygiene is something which is going to, take a very, very prominent position. Nobody wants to shake hands anymore. Nobody wants to hug anymore. That's understandable. Stay safe, stay healthy. But that doesn't mean that you're going to stop dreaming. Life's dreams are here to stay. Till we all are there, our dreams will stay. Till, aspirations will stay. And that's why I think we are having this conversation, that how is the future going to be? The future is going to be very bright. We learned a lot of lessons in the past. This is just another lesson that we've learned. We have to get used to living with this.
Amit, this question was to you also from Priya. You would like to add anything to what Ananta has said?
Sure, I'll be brief. So I totally agree with Ananta. There is, you see, most of the luxury buyers are savvy investors. They are savvy, they are global, travelers, and it is not just one property where they invest. So they used to invest, they used to own multiple real estate in their portfolios. So there may be some bit of curtailment on owning, those other assets, but as far as their primary home is concerned, I think need is going to be more and more. The demand is going to rather increase, right? So there are two kind of buyers. One is a promoter, business promoter. For them, it's not that, because of job loss or salary cut, it's going to really impact their primary home. As I said before, there could be curtailment of other expenses, but home requirement is going to be the top priority. There is no better time to say that home is the best investment, is your place to live and be comfortable. You see, if you look at last 100 years, no pandemic has lasted or impacted more than 6-7 months. So that's been the life of any pandemic. There is crisis and there is also going to be a solution, right? So people do have to live with hope and remain positive, remain optimistic. You are not here to take a 3 months, 6 months call. The other type of investor is CXOs, corporate level, corporate honchos. For them, there could be some erosion of their ESOP value. There could be some, bonus curtailment for 1 year, 2 year, but they all are also net investors and they have large investable surplus. So they are going to use that to buy luxury homes for their family and raise their kids in a desired manner.
There's one more viewer question from, this is for Mona, and Vishesh Tyagi from NCR is asking, how safe, Mona, is it for real estate is for investment, both in terms of long-term and short-term gains? Mona, you're on mute.
Sorry. Interesting question. So traditionally, real estate has always been considered the safest investment because, there's a famous saying that says that invest in land because they're not making any more of it. What we have is what we have. As an investment, of course, if you already have your primary home, you're fortunate enough to have your primary home. This is a great time to invest. Market sentiment is down, a lot of good deals are available. And if you have the liquidity, yes, you should go in for a purchase at this time. It's really a good time to buy. Long term, they say stocks, equities can lose their glamour. You can lose money in any kind of investment that you do. But real estate always has that advantage that at least there's a roof over your head and you are providing a home to your future generations. Doesn't matter if it's the first home, second home, or third home. So me being a real estate person, I think definitely real estate is a good investment, more so at this time when you can get some really good deals, and definitely for the longer term as well.
But Mona, for last 6-7 years, we are saying that it is the best time to invest in real estate. Prices are at rock bottom. So when this rock bottom will actually bottom out?
There's never any guarantee for that, Palash. There's never any guarantee. I can tell you my experience with investors is, the investors who are smart, they set themselves their budget and say, okay, when I achieve this price, I'm going to either buy or I'm going to sell. But there are a group of investors that are over smart and keep on waiting. Oh, abhi to aur girne wala hai, it's going to go down more. Sometimes they strike it lucky and sometimes they don't. So my advice to anybody who wants to invest in this, in real estate is, you set benchmarks for yourself. There is always going to be somebody who's bought it at a higher price than you and somebody who's bought it at a lower price than you. So you have to make peace with what your budget is and take a decision to buy or sell when you meet your own parameter. Of course, it's foolish to estimate that we should not consider market dynamics at all. I'm sure everybody who are setting their parameters are also going to take into cognizance the market parameters and the dynamics that are happening in the market at that time. But there is never a perfect bottom price to invest in. So yes, if the need is there, you may as well go ahead and do it.
So what you're saying is basics of investments that goes through even when you invest in equity. So now there's a question from Vivek Shukla, who is a senior journalist. This is for Vikas and Amit. India is an emerging market for luxury. What is that one factor which would actually push this? Vikas?
Good question. I think as I mentioned in my previous answer as well, that is how we should be looking at it, because India is a very, very large market. And currently, if we see the last 5 to 7 years, I know we all are very, very depressed right now. Pessimism is at its peak because of COVID. But if you look at the last 10 years, we've probably got the highest shift in terms of the income strata, from people moving from out of poverty to possibly into that earning range where they can start spending. And then even the similar kind of trend was seen in the higher strata of the income. So we are clearly seeing that aspirations are growing, income levels are growing in India. And as Ananta rightly said, this is a speed breaker. Maybe in another couple of quarters, we all will be positive. We all will start seeing our salaries start increasing. Jobs will start coming back, and so on and so forth. Look at one data. All the luxury automobile makers, they are saying India is one of the largest market for them for the next 10 years, right? So these are the indicators. Luxury is because the way income levels are growing, the way aspirations are growing in India, luxury is the way to go.
Okay. Now there's a question for Nayan. I believe Nayan is not with us, so I'll take some other question from Via.
No, I'm there. I was just jabbing a bite. I'm sorry.
Okay, Nayan. There's a question from Shivam Khandelwal from Jaipur. He is saying, tier 2 cities, do you think luxury group housing will be here anytime soon, as we have already having plotted developments, or will luxury be confined to metros only?
If you ask, from me personally, we on a personal level as a company are not looking at tier 2, tier 3, but I have some very good friends from other companies. I know they are looking at opportunities, but I can tell you a general mood of developers right now. And I mean, honestly spoken, general mood of developers is to deliver everything, do slightly less work because of uncertainty also. I mean, everybody wants to consolidate to the extent कोई बहुत ज़्यादा high growth trajectory ऐसा इस time पे the mad expansion that we saw about 6-7 years back in our sector. I don't think people are thinking of that. And having said that, even in tier 2 cities, I'm a big believer that true luxury is, because again the debate between land and housing comes in. I think there are the tier 2 are better suited for these plotted bungalows, farms, this kind of thing. They have the luxury. They should know that is the real luxury which they have access to, because land prices are cheap. So you can do everything. I mean, it's being closer to ground and nature and trees and the sun and the wind. That's true luxury, my friend.
Maybe Nayan, they're looking for more condominiums there.
Maybe they're looking.
Yukti, now next question is for you from Ankit Sharma, who is a journalist from Delhi. He is asking, location or amenities, what sells in luxury?
Well, to my corest belief of right now, I think luxury is very, very subjective to your target audience. And as the pandemic has taught me, and generally, our lives are so fast paced that we never get to time to just take a pause, relax, and understand what we're doing. Are we taking care of ourselves? So what sells in luxury? I just have one answer for that: wellness. Your upgradation of your lifestyle and your wellness, that's the only thing that's going to sell from now on.
Amit, you would like to add anything to that?
I think it's preference of the buyer. Some buyers would prefer, condo living, some may prefer farmhouse, some may prefer, so it greatly depends on their requirement and preferences.
Aditya, do you have more questions?
Yeah, I would like to ask one question. As Ananta was saying that this is all temporary, salary cuts are temporary, job loss is temporary. Actually, we also believe the same. And if I mention 3 recent reports, one from Morgan and Stanley yesterday, another one from Fitch, and another one from S&P Global last week. They all are saying that Indian GDP will bounce back in 21-22. So we all are agree that it is temporary, but I think we are also discussing on the same thing that in the Corona period, how will you find or how are you seeing the luxury housing sales going on? After the Corona, but the post-COVID, we all can believe that sales will go at a higher pace. But in the COVID-19 pace, how things will turn around in the luxury housing segment?
Aditya ji, you would like me to answer that?
Yes, I am asking you.
Okay. So, Aditya ji, to be let's be very clear about it. That this, of course, these are unprecedented times, and none of us have seen these before. Today, I complete 29 years in the industry, and tomorrow I start my 30th year in this industry. And we have not seen a time like this when everybody is locked in their houses for an entire quarter. So now let's talk about what are we going to do with our luxury products if the markets remain like this. Now, if the markets remain like this, the end users are definitely not going anywhere because home loans are best, deals are best, and the necessity and importance of a home has been felt like never before. The feelings and the needs of your loved ones, your immediate family, also is something that you are experiencing firsthand. Your money lying in the bank is not going to fetch you anything great at these times. So an end user is not going anywhere. As far as the NRIs are concerned, NRIs are also not going anywhere because, all those points have just been mentioned, whether it is the dollar appreciation or whether it is the other things, the job insecurity and stuff, they will buy. They may not stay, but they will buy. The rental business is going up. That has also been established very clearly. And of course, if you're taking something on rent and you're taking long term, then definitely you are going to take something which takes into account all your needs. The address where you stay and the strength of the builder and the reputation of the builder are of prime importance at this time. And in our country, mostly all reputed names are in the luxury segment. So they will take care of all the safety, precaution, wellness, which Yukti has been highlighting from the beginning of this session. So definitely luxury buying is going to happen. Bhed chal will not happen. If you're thinking that somebody is going to invest and he's going to, keep waiting and watching and all, that may not happen. The investments will happen in the plotted developments. We ourselves in Experion have this in Sector 108, we have approximately 100-acre township. There the interest in plots has increased. So if it is an investment, they'll buy a plot, there is no maintenance charge, recurring, nothing, buy it and keep it and then see what they want to do with it. As times improve, as their income improves, they can build something which meets their requirements, suits their requirements. So the buyer, the real buyer is not going anywhere. People who play around and fool around with real estate and also get hit the maximum when markets sway, they are going to obviously wait and watch. Wherever there is job uncertainty, and that is across a whole lot of sectors, those people will opt for the hand-holding that builders like us are giving them. We are saying pay 25% now, pay 75% after a year, after 2 years. Take possession also if you want. We'll find you something on rent also in the condominium. Experience the rental life through one of our investors, we'll tie it up for you. We are taking those extra steps. We are listening to their need, catering to that need, hand holding them through this transaction. So it's not कि एक broker ने कुछ एक form उठा लिया, deal हो गया. नहीं. Even broking firms are acting as investment advisors. They are hand holding them through the entire transaction and helping them through this process. So it is not the type of business that it used to be. Every developer, every realtor has to ask themselves, what am I willing to give up to do my job best? And so you have to invest a lot of time, a lot of energy. Like Karan said, every call is running into an hour, hour and a half. Of course it will. You have to satisfy the person and he will not go anywhere. But if you are wishy-washy, if your facts are not correct, if your projection is not right, if your product is weak, if the builder developer image is weak, and if it's not ready to move in, then it's not happening. Then wait. So that's what I would say.
So Palash, if I may just add the demand sentiment to Aditya's question. So Aditya, as you know, we have multiple platforms. So when the lockdown got implemented, we saw suddenly the demand came crashing, and we saw the traffic on the platform, inquiries on the platform got hit by almost 50%. But you'll be surprised that the last week, 10 days, we've seen the demand is back to the platform at pre-COVID level. We are seeing the same level of inquiries, same level of traffic. And you'll be surprised, just to answer your question, how is that luxury playing out in this COVID period? The ratio of luxury contribution in terms of inquiries and traffic is very similar to what we saw pre-pandemic or pre-lockdown. So we are not seeing any kind of tilt towards the demand will be depressed or it will take a longer time to come back. But yes, as Nayan mentioned, as Ananta mentioned, I think the cycle time to buy will going to be much longer as we've experienced in the past.
I'd like to second.
And just to add to that, Vikas,
point
people are doing their homework. Even those who are not buying right now are doing their homework, taking their decision. They may implement their decision maybe a little later. But this is the best time for them to do their homework and be ready for the call as soon as things in their personal environment improve a little bit.
Absolutely.
You are adding something?
Yeah, I was adding to Vikas's point. I totally agree with you right there that the past couple of weeks have definitely shown a very good increase in terms of the inquiries and in terms of the closures. And you very correctly said we are exactly sitting at how the times was like right before the COVID hit. And with that being said, luxury definitely counts for better inquiries, more inquiries right there, because that aspiration is very linked to how their time has been during this lockdown, how well they have spent their time, how well, what are the pros and cons of living in the current accommodation that they're at. That definitely they're raising those questions, they're understanding more about the products that are being offered. And like Nanta ma'am also just mentioned, they are doing their homework, they are understanding what are we as developers bringing for them. So I think from May itself, things started looking up, and now we're sitting half of June, and I'm looking at easily closing around 50 crores of sales for my luxury project. So that gives me motivation. It gives my buyers a lot of motivation. It definitely boosts the entire company and the industry in general, because luxury is picking up, and any buyer is realizing their need for it even more than they have before.
I have loads of viewers' questions, but we are overshooting time. I'll take two last questions. One is from Poonam Patel from Ahmedabad. She's asking to all the developers present here. You all represent 3 cities, Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida, and some other cities as well. What's the percentage increase in land cost or cost of building luxury? I'll start with Nayan. Nayan?
Yeah, I can give you a few parameters. They may sound a little strange, but you're talking about percentage increase, but I'm telling you what we are doing right now. I mean, at one of our projects in Gurgaon as well as in Delhi. So the public area interiors that we are doing, I think it's ranging between 10 to 12,000 rupees a square foot, which in my opinion is probably one of the highest in the country, which we are doing for luxury interiors, in a few of these, luxury projects that we are doing. It is not cheap. to build luxury if you know what luxury is. Like I said, I mean, this word gets thrown around so easily. Like people put a 40 rupees square foot tile and say that, you know, it is super luxury or something, right? I mean, unless you're putting a bloody 1,500 rupees per square foot Italian marble in your public area, please don't come and say it's luxury, right? I mean, if you're actually doing all of that in terms of interior specs, you know, in terms of the services, like for example, in Delhi, we've done a tie-up with Leela Palace hotels, you know, where they're going to be providing all the services. Now that comes at a cost, right? The interior specs that are coming from Leela, they come at a cost. So I mean, we've already built it into our cost. I don't see there is any unreal increase in these things over the last 2-3 months. There is a little bit of a fluctuation in cement, steel pricing right now, but I think that's stabilizing now. That was largely due to logistics issues. Yeah, so I mean, if you're looking at true luxury and if you're willing to pay the buck, there is somebody who's willing to build it for you, right? And there are top end specs, you know, available, whether it's interiors, whether it's getting the best consultants, whether it's a structure MEP, whether it's you know, getting the best swimming pool consultants, getting the best stones and the materials, you know, everything hand-picked down to the last detail. You know, we're working very, very with minute attention to detail. In fact, you know, I'm very proud of what we're building right now in Gurgaon. The interiors are getting completed. It's really, really mind-boggling.
Amit, your answer to that, cost of luxury building, the percentage of increase in cost of building?
I think definitely there is going to be an increase because of quality, supply chain. There is a whole lot of, you know, supply chain disintegration over the last couple of months. You know, getting supply from Europe, whether it is Italian marble or lighting, you know, all of that is going to take more time. There are going to be more precautions, more items added to the checklist, and labor cost will go up, right? So all of that will put some, you know, pressure on the pricing. At the same time, you know, home buyers would expect, you know, some discount. There is going to be some sort of, you know, dilemma there.
Okay, now one last question. This is from a viewer to all the participants. What should be the marketing way forward for luxury developers? New strategies, newer markets. I'll start with Karan and then Yukti and all I'll ask. Karan.
For me, and this is not specifically only for real estate, but all industries, all sections, all segments of consumers. The starting point of marketing is to understand as well as clearly, with your eyes as close, with your ears as close to the ground, what is it that your consumers actually want? What is it that their expectation is? How is this expectation changing through the current environment that we're living in? Is there a new need? Is there a new necessity? Then, for example, earlier mentioned that can we have more self-contained environments where, without necessarily going out, we can have more and more amenities available. So on and so forth. So I think from a marketing point of view, your ears to consumers or your ears to what consumers are speaking is the fundamental premise. Second, I think you need to be constantly engaged. You need to have a constant communication, and that communication needs to be a very, very honest, a very, very transparent, a very, very compassionate communication. A communication which is, you know, hard-pillared on empathy. This is not the time for hyperbole. This is not the time to make false claims. This is not the time, you know, to be over the top. This is the time to actually be there when your current customers and your extended stakeholders need you, and have as honest conversation that you can have. Because if you don't build trust at this point of time, the entire industry will suffer. Of course, developers will suffer, but the entire industry, the trust in the entire industry will tank. So that's
Yukti, how will you also communicate? Because I like everybody to answer that. Yukti, how are you going to communicate with your potential buyers?
I very much agree with Karan's point right there, that how important it is now more than ever that you have to keep your communication flowing, not with just your prospective buyers, but your current residents, your stakeholders, even your internal employees rather. You have to definitely keep communicating as much as possible in the most honest way as possible. And that has been my strategy also for Gulshan Dynasty for the past couple of months that we've been working. Instead of jazz up in newspaper and hoarding ads, what we have been focusing on is that on the direct connect We have to find those people, those like-minded people who understand us, who want to hear what we have to say. And well, definitely it's a two-way communication. So that's what the marketing, not just for real estate, also it has to be like that for every industry. You have to have more honest communications rather than tall claims, than throwing out schemes. You have to give the value of your product in as honest communication as possible. Now, with that being said, COVID has definitely created a very good digital connect with all our people. More and more people are on the social media handles. They're engaging with you. They're asking those questions. They definitely want those 1.5 hour video calls. And all of this is just building more and more trust into the developer that they're speaking with. I want to contradict Amit sir's point that he previously mentioned that real estate digitally, computer पे virtually नहीं बिकता है. I very much contradict and disagree that point. I think real estate, just like any other product, has a very big potential to be able to sell virtually. In fact, what I have noticed is when you are connecting over a video call with your customer, their entire family is sitting in front of the screen. They are more focused than ever. They are looking at everything you have to say. They're looking at your product, they're hearing you, and they're listening deeply. This kind of focus was never before possible when one of the person of the family member would visit the site and see all the disturbance that's already happening around, brokers coming in, going, so many people around, koi chai puch rahe, koi puch rahe. There is so much noise and disturbance. Whereas,
But Yukti, do you think a conversion will happen, that too in a luxury housing, on the basis of virtual tour itself?
Absolutely. Why not? Ultimately, it's about delivering the value of your product, whether it's virtual or whether it's physical. The value remains the same, whether you're communicating it via digital platform or via, a physical presence. I definitely foresee that happening.
But has it started happening on the basis of virtual tours? People are making such huge investments?
Yes, absolutely, it is happening. I think Mona wants to add something to that.
Alish, I'll just like to add here that from the last 2 years, I have been only selling online. And I have been selling properties in overseas jurisdictions online. So I don't see any reason why a luxury property in India cannot be sold online. Most of our site visits happen with the use of artificial intelligence, VR, actual videos, and the whole company is based on selling products online. So I definitely think that in this time, during COVID and whatever we are going to see in the coming few months, if the developers don't adapt to the digital world, they will be at a loss. It's very important to know who you're targeting, how you're targeting, and how easy are you making for them to purchase your apartment and to view your apartment, get that experience sitting in the privacy of their own home. So I do feel that in these times, digital is going to be the next thing. I mean, the only way forward, or a large way forward.
Amit, you would like to answer to that?
Yeah, sure. So you see, I am not at all saying that digital is not playing a role. All I'm saying is, if earlier a family was visiting 3 to 4 times, typical development when they're buying a $2 million, $3 million property. And I'm not talking just India, because Sotheby's being a global company, having presence in over 70 countries, we study and analyze data global. And what happens post-COVID, in our opinion, what may happen is that instead of those 3 or 4 visits, it could be 1 visit or maximum 2 visits. The rest of the visits could be digital or virtual, where people get a good sense. But before they really write a 1 crore or 10, 20 crore check, they would want to at least, visit it once. You see, it's like luxury automobile. People don't buy a car without sitting in it or doing a test drive. When somebody is buying 20, 30, 40 crore, it can't be. Otherwise, eBay and Amazon, believe you me, would be selling it, both Yukti and Mona. They would have started selling real estate globally, right? They being the largest e-commerce companies. And couple of points there on your question about how luxury would be marketed going forward. I think trust building is the key. Developers would need to build more and more trust with their consumer by, number one, keeping their existing buyers happy. So they need to keep their existing customers fully engaged. They would become their brand ambassadors. And there you also need a very strong resale, inventory strategy. So you don't want where in a project there are 400 units and 200 are sold, 200 are unsold. The other 200, out of that 20% inventory is in the market on resale, where there is a competition of price cutting between those investors and the developer. So there has to be
you are raising hands.
Just one sec, Palash, just two more quick points. And one will need to do it very professionally, digitally. One will have to have a very strong policy, strategy, including a strong PR. These are the things which will help you sell more and more. And Sotheby's being a global company, doing it professionally. So all the developers on the panel, you should explore the discussion with us. Thank you.
Nayan, please be quick.
Before you head up to Nayan, just one thing for Amit. Amit, I do agree with you that, as you and I both know, Quikr tried to get into real estate and they couldn't do it. HDFC got into housing for a long time, took a long time to revive its strategy and things like that. I think the key thing here for both your company and mine and for all the developers is to understand that digital marketing cannot be just given to a marketing agency. A marketing agency surely can make excellent creatives. They can, give you what marketing flavor. But when a marketing company is being headed by somebody with an extensive, depth of knowledge of real estate, that's where the key differentiator factor is. And to your point of 20-30 crores, I'm sure that nobody is going to make a large decision of 20-30 crores based on a website or on some digital communication that they've seen. But remember, we call this a suggestive, how do I put it? We call it a suggestive theory of marketing, where we, via the digital medium, make him so comfortable with the luxury offering that yes, earlier, if it would have taken him 5 visits and 4 visits to make sure that he's taking this decision, right now it could be an NRI sitting in UK just saying, I'm totally convinced, Mona, just give me some time till the lockdown eases. I'll tell somebody I know in Bombay to go visit the property, and that's it. So that's the gap that has been completely minimized by the digital medium. So, and of course, going in the future, I do hope that maybe 5-7 years from today, you and I can have a chat and I can say, hey, see, I did sell a 20 crore online, so we are gearing up towards that. We may not be there right now, but we are gearing up towards it.
I did sell that online as well. Exactly.
Oh, excellent.
There you go. It's happening.
There you go.
So I just wanted to add a way. I mean, they've said, I think, both are right in what they're saying. And I think I can count our company as, having successfully till now done over 1,000 sales, 100% online transactions, but only in the affordable housing or affordable plotting space, where even the money has gotten transferred, online through either RTGS or our app platform or, the website, right? But in luxury, I don't know. I don't think we've done any transaction which is like a 5 crore, 10 crore apartment ever. But we continue to do these 15-20 lakh sort of apartment sizes. But having said that, I mean, like Mona ji and Amit ji both, I think, stated, I think 90% of the life cycle of the entire consumer experience has now become online, and it's forcibly happening because of the coronavirus. All of us have learned how to use Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and this was something that we didn't know 3 months back. Now everybody is very well versed. The parents are telling the children that please teach me how to do this so I can speak to my family, right? So I think that is a very big change, a shift happening in consumer behavior. And I think there will be very soon, I think, a time when luxury housing, at least the application money, या फिर हिंदी में जिसको बयाना बोलते हैं, I think that will start happening online. Yeah, so I'm very
Ananta, what would be your marketing strategy?
To wrap up this, I think digital marketing, of course, all the tools are available and we all are using it to the maximum capacity, and it's working as well. But 3 things which are definitely needed to be successful as far as luxury reality sales in today's world and post-COVID, like you said, and through digital medium is concerned. First is you need extremely motivated teams. So motivation for the team is critical, because if you have happy people talking to all these concerned prospective buyers, it changes a lot. So motivation for team, education for the channels. if the channels are not well informed about what you are willing to give in order to close that, then you may not have a second opportunity. He may hop to something else because buyer attention is only limited. So motivation for your team, education for the channel, and agility in the leadership. So these are times when leadership cannot distance or disassociate. You have to know, have your ears to the ground and be in touch with them. You have to be accessible to them 24/7. If you want results, if you want closures, there are time zones, there's so much going on. So I just wrap up with these three. I think motivation, education, and agility are very important if we all want to be successful. And I'm really looking forward to that Zoom party with Yukti when she meets her target.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, one last question to Vikas, you, not as a developer, not as a finance professional.
You're not on the Wi-Fi.
If a luxury developer wants to target you as a potential home buyers of a luxury house, what marketing strategy shall he apply to you?
No, absolutely. So Palash, I don't know if they'll target me as a luxury buyer or not, but I think, see, clearly, Palash, very, very important trend. See, real estate have always stayed resilient in terms of adopting digital way of sales, right? While many other industries are sitting at 70, 80, 90% penetration in terms of adoption of digital channel of sales, real estate is still kind of in their marketing techniques were at least hovering around 20-25% until pre-COVID. What we are seeing in the last 2 months, every developer is adopting digital way of sales massively. They are saying that this is the way to go, and this will going to stay there forever, not only during the lockdown period, but also post-pandemic. And looking at this, what we have done is we've enabled our platform with a lot of digital products which developers can adopt to showcase their properties, not only the digital viewing of properties, which is pano views, 3D views, and so on, or aerial views, but we've also enabled, we've hosted so many webinars for our developer partners to directly connect with the customers. So to Ananta's point, the leadership need to stay in touch with the consumer and hear what's happening on the ground. To enable that, we've hosted a lot of webinars, and we've seen very good traction when the consumer actually listened to the senior level people at the developer organization explaining the USP of the project or explaining the project. We've also enabled digital video calling on our platform where the customer can immediately connect with the developer representative to talk over the call. I think these are the trends which we are seeing will gonna stay. I think digital is the way to go. That's what we believe, and this 25% will definitely going to go to some 60-70% over the next 3 to 4 years. That's what we strongly believe, and this will be same in luxury as well. It'll not be different.
Can I take 30 seconds?
Yeah, please.
Two quick points. One is on digital. Please understand that while the developers and the industry needs to make that new journey, the consumer on the other hand and the channel partner in the middle also needs to become slowly comfortable in embracing that journey. Because it's not just the developers who have not been embracing digital. Even the consumer is concerned, he cannot till now had imagined that he would ever be able to make a transaction without touching, feeling, standing in the middle of the project or the property. And the channel partner was only about physical interaction, engagement, handshake. So if you take all the three stakeholders together, that is when truly the entire industry will embrace digital successfully. That's one part. The second part that I want to also talk about is not being spoken about here, but maybe it's a discussion for another topic, another time, is digital or digitization and mechanization at the construction site. There's a whole lot of digital, may not be marketing, but if you're asking me about digital and mechanization, which can happen at the construction site with people, with labor, with processes, which is also something that the industry needs to move towards. Because that is when we'll be in a stronger position to be more self-reliant on the kind of workforces that we can work with, develop those workforces for future requirements as well. So digital for me is not just one marketing, conversation point. Digital and technology and mechanization needs to happen at a process level as well. That's just that.
Fine. So during the lockdown, Yukti clocking 50 CR sales, current 200 CR sales, maybe 8 weeks down the line, we'll come back again and we'll ask the actual data and actual cancellation figures as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back next week again. Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Palash.
Thank you.
Thank you.